But something we really enjoyed, and it's funny because to get a little behind the scenes, I haven't been able to make it to the movies. That's why we're recording this a little bit later. And Dave was like adamant that we could not record this week until I saw this movie. So Dave forced me to see it. I'm glad he did. Thor Ragnarok, a movie that I wasn't sure about. The trailers looked really good. Had a much different vibe than most of the Marvel and especially the Thor films have had. It was directed by Taika Waititi. Did I say that correct?
Yep, from New Zealand.
Damn, I can't believe I nailed it. Who actually, I can't wait to talk about him as a character in the movie because
Korg.
Yeah, Korg was just amazing. But what was your expectation for this movie?
Yeah, so we talked about the trailer, ways back when it dropped. You can check that on YouTube where we have all our breakouts. Check out our Nostalgia Reacts playlist where you'll find our trailer reactions. So, we saw this trailer. It kind of came out of left field. Like, yeah, we knew the Hulk would be in it. We knew Jeff Goldblum was cast. We didn't know that it was going to be this funny. And the trailer immediately set off that vibe. This was, just much more comedic, a much looser film.
Lighter.
And yeah, exactly. And which is such a welcome thought before we even saw it, given the first two Thor movies are two of the more disliked or ignored MCU movies because while they do some of the heavy lifting in terms of establishing the Thor, Asgard stuff, the movies themselves are kind of dull. So yeah, that was a very exciting idea. Then we see this movie and it just delivers. I mean, it's 2 hours of nonstop fun. I think at the very worst, you see this movie and you have a good time, even if you're not the biggest Marvel fan.
Yeah, it's interesting. You see the trailer and you have Led Zeppelin Immigrant Song, which, just a side note, I think if you put Led Zeppelin into almost anything at this point, it makes it more fun. Like, there was a scene at the end of Mindhunters. I'm sure we'll touch on like a season recap or thoughts on it in some respect. But the season end of that uses in the Light by Led Zeppelin, and I've been like thinking about that scene like since I watched it. It was just so perfect. So then how prominent that Led Zeppelin was in this. I mean, even from the first scene, yeah, fucking awesome. And it sets the tone right away, just by the way that Thor breaks down the wall with the audience, the third wall with the audience, or fourth wall with the audience, and he's talking about like, this is where I'm at, and I bet you're wondering how I got to you. And it's really it sets the tone right away, and it's such a different direction, as you said, for Thor, which is very actually almost like self-serious, which is interesting for I don't know, superhero that's like a god from another universe. It was a strange. I think that this was the right move. So I guess just to kind of break down the movie, what were the parts that stand out in your mind or that you really think are important to break down?
Yeah, well, I think Chris Hemsworth actually kind of talked about this before the movie came out. They make Thor as a character much more likable and charming. I mean, we've seen Chris Hemsworth act well in Rush, and he was actually funny in the Ghostbusters movie, one of the few good parts to it. And, Thor in the Avengers movies and the Thor movies, he's kind of been almost like a straight man. Like, there's been comedic elements with him and Hulk, but he's kind of been dull. And he was no one's really favorite character. People just kind of like Hemsworth. That was kind of it. So this kind of really just totally reinvigorated the whole, Thor brand. And I think now people really, really like Thor. And I think this is huge because, as we're heading towards Avengers Infinity War, you want people to care about Thor because, we assume a lot of stuff's going to happen there, and maybe he becomes a pillar for the universe moving forward. But either way, I think one of the most important things that happened was that they totally reinvigorated the Thor character.
Yeah, as you think about Thor and they're moving towards Infinity Wars and bringing all of these characters together, Thor is probably going to have to be one that's going to have to do a lot of the heavy lifting to get like the Guardians of the Galaxy involved and pull in some of these heroes who are out in space. So he's a really essential character, and moving in this direction makes so much sense, especially as, I don't think Robert Downey Jr. is going to be Iron Man forever. There was already rumors that Chris Evans didn't want to be Captain America anymore. So you're really moving in a direction of who's going to be the guard in a way. And I think Hemsworth could do that easily, especially with the way that the character moved. probably one of the scenes that I found most endearing was when him and Hulk were. He was trying to convince Hulk to help him out, and they're sitting down. He's like, "We're the same, you and I." And Hulk, Hulk's like, "No, Hulk is fire. You're water." And he goes, "No, I'm fire
Smoldering.
too." Yeah, he's like, "I know, but Hulk's raging fire."
Thor smoldering.
Thor smoldering. Just so good, and the way that they played off each other was excellent.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I also just I guess I'll talk about now. Yeah, the director as Korg was so freaking funny.
Oh man. I mean, shout out Tycho in general, because
Yeah.
you listen to him do any press about the movie. He actually gives Marvel a lot of credit for being very hands off about the shoot, which is the old Disney Marvel Studios. Obviously, not the case. Joss Whedon and Edgar Wright can tell you about that. So the fact that he ran like an open loose shoot playing music, and they were riffing on the script, and it really looks like the whole cast was having a good time, and obviously nonstop jokes. But then to top it all off, he's voicing this absolutely hilarious breakout character.
Right.
For crying out loud, he introduces himself with a rock paper scissors joke. And you can't even argue it at this point. The MCU, Marvel, is at its best when it's comedic.
Yes.
Well, the best movies are funny. Guardians, Spider-Man: Homecoming, Robert Downey Jr. The best stuff is when they're lighter and funny. And Tycho brought a nice fresh take on everything and got to get on the action himself.
Right. Well, actually, that's a really great point about the movies being best when they're funny. Because if you even think about where this IP started, it's with comic books. In comic books, I mean, some of the most well-known ones are like Logan or The Killing Joke, some very self-serious ones. But for the most part, comic books are supposed to be fun. Like, these worlds are supposed to be enjoyable and funny and lighthearted for the most part. And it seems strange that it almost like took them this long to really figure that out. But they've been incorporating more and more into the films.
I wouldn't say that it took them this long to figure it out so much as that Marvel, like, they earned this. They put in such hard work laying all the groundwork. And Tycho actually shouts out the first two Thor movies. He's like, "Hey, you guys built up Loki for me and told everyone what the Bifrost was." Like, he just got to come in with his crayons and have fun in Asgard. He didn't have to explain what Asgard was.
True.
Marvel in general. I mean, you look at like Black Panther's next movie coming out. Like, again, that's still kind of mind blowing. But they got this point. They were able to take a calculated risk and get weird with Thor, one of the most important characters they have. And I think you're speaking about comic books. I mean, one of the most exciting things about this movie, when we learned more about it, was that they were taking parts of Planet Hulk, and Planet Hulk was one of the most famous Hulk storylines from the mid 2000s, and we see a lot of it on film. He's on a faraway planet and becomes a famous gladiator. And what was so important about Planet Hulk as a comic was that it was not a Bruce Banner story. It was a Incredible Hulk story. And I think we got a lot of that. Like, we got some great moments as the Hulk being Hulk, before he became Banner. So, I mean, anywhere you look, I think this movie is just a resounding success.
Yeah, and especially I think with the villain. Like, shout out Kate Blanchett for being freaking OG, like, badass in this, because like, she plays it so well, like, as kind of likable and kind of hateable at the same exact time. Yes. And I also think it was touching on like the family aspects that I think a lot of people like to tune into, like about her basically being cast off, and that there was secrets, and how that impacted how Thor and Loki understood their dad. And I mean, it wasn't brought up too much in the movie, but it was somewhat. And then how it pitted like family against each other was very interesting. I also think one of the things that I liked most about this movie was it brought in characters for like, and everybody got their moment to shine. Like Doctor Strange, you talk about how Marvel really earned this. Like Doctor Strange's 10 minutes in this is fantastic.
Yeah,
it's so much fun. And like, especially when you see them going from place to place, and Thor has the beer and he just keeps like falling into things because he's so disoriented.
Right.
Just like little things like that, and like how it all makes sense of why he like even like took Loki in the first place and put him in that constant falling on a
Right.
third dimension.
Yeah.
It's really cool, like to see all these little moments kind of pop up, and it made sense. And that was actually one of the things that, as someone who's seen most of the movies, I can follow these movies. But I brought my girlfriend Julianne, who didn't even really like Thor before, and she left saying that was the most fun I've had at one of these superhero movies. And she said, and I could follow it. Like it made a lot of
Mm.
sense, which I was like, oh, so for someone that has a hard time following these things, for this to be that simple is a really good sign.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, the Doctor Strange scene, I think I enjoyed. I thought it was funny. And
Hmm.
you know, I mean, is it extraneous? Yeah,
Sure.
probably. You don't need it in the film, but that's fine. Marvel's got to the point where they can pull off that scene. It doesn't impact the
Mhm.
movie, just like
Yeah.
Robert Downey Jr. didn't, hurt Homecoming. Um, and I think Hela, like you said, like, I mean, Hela, did she have some exposition dialogue, just kind of talking to Scourge, Carl Urban's character, kind of explaining stuff? Sure, but overall, she kind of did what she needed to do in the movie and was, I think, lively enough on screen that it was fine.
Hmm.
Um, and I thought it was, I mean, I couldn't help but think of Star Wars: Revenge of the Sith when Hela shows up and she kills the Warriors 3,
Yeah.
who were in the first two Thor movies and actually, had some bigger parts to play. And she just kind of like kills them like really fast. And I was like, oh
Hmm.
wait, that's like when Mace Windu shows up to Palpatine's office,
Hmm.
and Palpatine immediately kills the three other Jedi Masters with Mace. I was like, wow, like, I had flashbacks, PTSD
Right.
from that. But yeah, I mean, killing those guys off, having Odin die, and then
Hmm.
Asgard itself going away. I mean, we kind of expected that given the Ragnarok name storyline,
Yeah.
but again, it's kind of setting the table to move the universe forward. Because I mean, let's be real, we weren't gonna spend more time doing these solo Thor movies in
No.
Asgard, So like we had our fun and we're moving it on. I thought it worked so well, and the fact that it was so funny just kind of made the fact that it was a annihilation story uh, much more enjoyable.
Yeah. And I felt like there was just really good chemistry with the whole like cast, and like you said, it's something that they've earned and built up. But especially between Thor and Loki, which I think there's always been, but this was the most they've gotten to be like together playing off each other. And Hiddleston is just like
No, he's
electric.
great.
I mean,
He's excellent. Yeah.
yeah. Um, you mentioned Homecoming, and this is really interesting. So those are probably the two Marvel movies that, I mean, they're the only two that have come out this year, correct?
And Guardians too.
And Guardians, right? So they're actually batting 3 for 3, because I thought those were all really great movies. Out of those two, though, because I don't think Guardians is in this discussion, which two movies are more important to the franchise moving forward? Like, which one is
Yeah,
more important?
that's a great question. It's tough, I mean, because on one hand, no one cared about Thor, so the fact that we tied off the Asgard loose end wasn't that big of a deal, like this is, if you
Right.
think about the Thor Ragnarok, it's pretty inconsequential, it's just
Hmm.
getting Thor and friends ready to show up for Infinity War. That's really all this happens,
Right.
Then Homecoming is, I think, more important because
Hmm.
it's a solo movie, not an origin movie, which was great about it. But we reestablished Spider-Man and made him so immediately likable again, joining back in the MCU. So I would say Homecoming is more important, but I mean, you could go either way because neither one is super consequential.
Right.
Neither one is Civil War or
Yeah.
Avengers. So yeah, it's an
I,
interesting thought.
I agree with you, though. I think Homecoming is more important because, one, you get Tom Holland as someone to basically build these movies off of moving forward as a legitimate star for them. Um,
Yes.
but Thor Ragnarok is so important because it allows them to continue to be weird with these movies, which is what we really want. I mean, we want them to hit on the main things. We want to see the characters we want to see. We want to see them doing things together. But to be able to take risks and more chances and see that it works and people respond well to them doing different things is
Yeah.
really exciting, especially because like I've never even heard of Taiku before. And
Mhm.
now he's somebody that I'm like, I like to see this guy, take a shot at some other like films in moving forward, like especially franchises or things like that, because it seems like he has a really fun perspective on making movies.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he has some popular movies. I think it's what's it called? Comes in the Shadows. I forget. He had some movies that got
Okay.
some indie love, but yeah, no blockbusters yet. But I think he was actually attached to doing Akira next.
Oh,
He hasn't signed on or anything, but that would be huge, of course.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, shout out to him. And I've thought about this as soon as I saw Ragnarok. I was like, is 2017 the best Marvel Cinematic Universe year? You have Guardians 2, Spider-Man Homecoming, and Thor Ragnarok. The only other
Hmm.
year that I think compares is 2014, which is The Winter Soldier and Guardians 1. And a lot of people probably have Winter Soldier and Guardians 1 above all the movies this year. I could see it
Right.
either way, but I think these are the two best years, I think, pretty easily.
Yeah, I would put it behind just because Winter Soldier and Guardians 1 are just fantastic films. But these two are, I mean, these three, Guardians 2, for some reason, I keep forgetting about, but man, these two movies are really, really good. Like,
Yeah,
it's a
for sure.
Marvel just stays winning, dude. Like, I don't know. I don't see anything that could derail them at this point.
I mean, and we look ahead to next year. We have Black Panther in February, Infinity War.
Oh my God. Dude, Black Panther's trailer came on, and I was
Yeah.
like on the edge of my seat.
With
It
that
looks
theater,
so fucking
with
good.
that theater sound too. Yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Infinity War is in May, and then Ant-Man and the Wasp, Ant-Man 2 comes out in July.
Ah,
So,
okay, cool.
and then 2019 we have Captain Marvel, whatever they call Infinity War 2, and Spider-Man Homecoming 2, whatever that's called.
Mhm.
And then 2020, all that's attached there is Guardians 3 without an actual date. So, I'd imagine probably by the end of 2019 you get the big announcement again for what the Phase 4 movies are, and
Right.
with Captain Marvel and Guardians going on, and Thor again, like we're getting weird, and that's what's so exciting, that these movies are so successful that we can get so weird. So
Definitely.
that's where we're at.
Just to kind of pull out of this discussion a bit, but keep it on movies. The trailers that I got were Star Wars Episode 8.
Yes, I finally saw the trailer.
Yeah, what did you think?
It was good. I mean, I didn't feel like it revealed anything. I don't know.
No.
There's that whole hoopla of it spoiling stuff, and I was like, no, it didn't. It's fine.
I don't think so either. And then Black Panther, and then Justice League.
Yeah, Justice League, and you're like, oh no, please.
Right. I know. Oh, that was the thing but every time I turned Julianne, I was like, I want to see this. It's like, I want to see this. And Justice League, I was like, I'm gonna see this.
I have to see this.
Right.
I mean, Ezra Miller looks funny. I'm hoping he's a big help,
And Jason Momoa, it looks like he might be pretty badass in this. So
yeah.
I don't know. It's gonna be interesting for Justice League. DC, the pressure's on because Marvel can't miss right now. So they need something to compete.
Like I've said this before, Justice League unfortunately was made, like the production of it, like DC post Wonder Woman is so exciting. Then we have Justice League, which feels like a pre Wonder Woman movie, even though it's coming out afterwards.
Right.
So, I mean, if the Flash movie and Aquaman comes out next year, if the Aquaman strikes out, then I'd really be worried. But Justice League, I'm almost giving it a pass. I'm like, it's probably not going to be great, but again, I want to see what's next after that.
Yeah. Anyways, we'll probably start wrapping up there. Any more thoughts on Thor before we go?
Yeah, I actually had one last question for you. We have to talk about the Chris Wars post Ragnarok. How do you feel about Chris Pine, Chris Hemsworth, Chris Evans, and Chris Pratt? Where's your ranks at?
It's funny. I was watching some Moneyball last night, and I was like, wow, Chris Pratt and Scott Hattenberg. That's kind of where he started off with like big movies. I think Chris Pine actually right now holds the belt, which is crazy because I don't think I've ever really considered him as like the belt holder, but he definitely does. But Hemsworth is up there.
Yeah, I think Pine overall is just in the best movies, and he does a lot of variety. Like Star Trek Beyond was dope, but he was in Wonder Woman.
Right?
He's gonna be in this Netflix he's gonna be Robert the Bruce, the Scottish independence guy, for a Netflix show, which sounds cool. And then like Pratt, we like Pratt, he's enjoyable, but he's only been his one thing in Guardians and Jurassic World, and then Passengers. Obviously, we don't need to talk about that. And then Evans also doesn't seem to act a whole lot.
I don't know.
In like big, he acts, but like he's not in anything notable in a while, besides like Snowpiercer. Everything else is just him as Captain America, which is just a straight man. So I think Hemsworth, I mean, if he was in like In the Heart of the Sea, that Moby Dick movie, which kind of struck out. So he hasn't had a whole lot of success away from Thor, but we know he can do it. So like I think his stock's definitely up, but I still
Right.
have Chris Pine #1.
Yeah, which is crazy. Like if you had asked me that like 4 years ago, 3 years ago when Guardians 1 came out, I would have been like, it's gonna be Chris Pratt, he's gonna hold the belt.
He'll be
Chris
Indiana
Evans,
Jones. He'll be Nathan
right?
Drake.
I know,
Yeah.
and then he's fallen off. I don't know. We'll see. It changes so quickly. They just need one good movie come out and just probably flip around. But anyways, as Dave said at the beginning, subscribe to the pod. Go to soundcloud.com/nostalgiapod. Subscribe on YouTube. Give us a rating and review on iTunes. Tweet at us at nostalgiapod, at Martin Swagger, at Sheeny World Peace. Show us off your 280 characters if you got it.